Okay, so the
There we go.
record button is working. Thank you, everyone. My name is Zela Astarjan, and I'm your host today. I welcome you to another of AIWA's virtual webinars. This is the first in a series of financial literacy webinars, and today we have an open conversation about money decisions and consequences with industry experts. We will be discussing how to take control of your life through your finances and how that's going to help with your overall well-being. There's going to be time for Q&A, so please feel free to ask questions in the Q&A feature on your screen at the bottom. We also have a survey at the end of the program, so please take 2 minutes to let us know what future topics you want us to cover on these webinars, including what other financial or investment-related topics that you want us to cover. Before we get into the discourse, I want to remind you about AIWA's mission and the 3 pillars that we're currently focusing on. Our mission is simple. It is to connect and elevate Armenian women globally. And I'm going to ask you to please type in the chat box at the bottom of your screen, the city, state, and country from where you're connecting. As to how we elevate Armenian women, we do that through 3 strategic focus areas. Number 1, health and wellness. This is about supporting a woman's right and power to be aware and in control of her mental, physical, emotional well-being. We do that by supporting domestic violence programs. Number 2, our second area of focus is education. We believe that to educate is to liberate, and we do that by giving thousands of scholarship dollars every year. Last year, we gave 70,000 in scholarships. And by the way, we have an Instagram Live on February 26th with several scholarship recipients. It's going to be a fun event. Join us. I highly recommend it. It's going to be on our website very soon. And the third and last area of focus is economic empowerment, because without financial freedom, women have to sometimes make some very difficult choices, as you can imagine. Today's webinar obviously falls into this category of economic empowerment. So before we get into the questions, I'm going to introduce you to our panelists. I'm going to start with Anna Bruno. Anna was started in Yerevan, Armenia, and she immigrated to the US in 1991 and currently lives in New York. Anna started her financial career at Raymond James and then moved to Solomon Smith Barney before establishing her own financial planning practice, Anna Bruno Associates, in 2003. She has a certificate in retirement planning from the Wharton School of University of Pennsylvania and a designation as a retirement planning specialist in 2009. In February 2021, Anna established the Thrive Armenia Foundation, which is a New York nonprofit that helps to flourish and help Armenia prosper through economic and technological advancements. She also started a Get Skills Academy, which functions as an educational arm of Thrive Armenia Foundation. And this entity supports former soldiers who took part in the Artsakh War and helps them with skills and so that they can find professions and are financially independent. We're very lucky to have Celeste here with us, Celeste Aijan, and she's going to want to introduce herself. Celeste, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself before we start into the questions?
Hi, guys. Well, first off, thank you so much for having me. I'm Celeste, but some of you might know me as Simone or Simi, but that's a story for another time. I'm a wealth management advisor, certified financial advisor with Northwestern Mutual, and my main focus is on helping women and people all around the country level up their money and gain financial freedom. I use my financial proficiency and a holistic planning approach as a means to provide women with the skills to increase their financial security and confidence. My Armenian roots and culture are a huge driver in my desire to help Armenian women gain a deeper sense of financial literacy and financial planning. I've hit many milestones in my career with Northwestern Mutual over the past year, and I'm really looking forward to future success. So thank you for having me today.
Nice introduction. Thank you so much, Celeste. So why don't we get into the questions? We have 6 questions that we've prepared here that we're going to get into. And then around, I would say 40 past the hour, we're going to open it up to questions. But I'm going to keep an eye on the questions and start incorporating them as we see fit. So I talked to a lot of people out there who are very stressed out about their finances. So my first question to you both is, what is financial health and why is financial health so important? Celeste, do you want to get us started with that one?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, financial health is so important. There's so much anxiety going on in the world today. And a lot of anxieties in particular come from unknowns. People aren't saving enough, they're spending too much, they're investing in the wrong way, they're not investing enough, they're investing too much. If you're able to save and achieve what you strive for, your life becomes so much easier. It's just one less thing to worry about. I know specifically during COVID about a lot of stresses about money has emerged significantly, and it's become even more crucial for your mental health to take control of your finances and be aware of the decisions that you're making on a day-to-day basis.
Yes, and first of all, thank you so much, Zella, for having us today, to AIWA for having us today. Again, I'm Anna Bruno. I'm very excited to be here. And when I think of financial health, I think of peace of mind. To me, financial health is having peace of mind. In addition, to have financial health is to have the freedom. My father-in-law used to say, you're saving money first and foremost in order to have financial freedom. So if there is something that unexpectedly happens, you have the means to take care of it without going into credit cards, without going into debt, without stressing yourself and your family about not knowing what to do. So the importance of financial health is so important because that will give you freedom to do the things you do in life and to do the type of work you do in life, rather than having forced to do something that you don't necessarily love to do. So I want to keep it short and sweet, but I think, financial health is extremely important. That goes without saying, and freedom and independence is why you want to have financial health.
Well said, Anna. So let's get into our next question. What can we do to improve financial health? And after you guys finish, I'm going to give you an example of a friend of mine, Maral, what she does once a year in January. But anyway, Anna, you want to start this one?
Sure, I'll start. So what could you do to improve financial health? First and foremost is to educate yourself. This is the reason why we're here together. Absolutely, education is a cornerstone of having financial health, because if you don't know what you don't know, and if you don't know the mistakes you're doing, you're not going to be able to correct them. So educating yourself is extremely important. Whether you take specific courses, whether you work with a financial advisor, whether you take webinars like today's webinar, educating yourself is the #1 priority. But that's not where you stop, right? After educating yourself, you want to have a written financial plan, written goals. Why do I say written? Is because I'm sure you guys are aware of, there are many, there have been a lot of studies done that shows that people who have written financial goals have much higher chances of accomplishing them versus people who did not. So again, having a right, you want to educate yourself, but you also want to have written goals and written financial plan. But we don't stop there either. Once you're educating yourself and you have a written financial plan, you also have to implement it. Because again, it's great to have a financial plan, but if you just put it into like a drawer somewhere and it's collecting dust, your plan is collecting dust, what good is it, right? So we want to implement our plan. We want to take actions. And I know it's hard because a lot of times people will say, well, I'll get to it. And there's like, we have to deal with day-to-day stuff, and, it doesn't become priority. But I feel like, that is, it is very important for all of us to make this a priority. And lastly, the only other thing I want to mention in terms of what can you do to improve your financial health is, it's almost like going to the doctor, right? To go for annual checkup. Once you have a written plan and you have implemented your plan, it is absolutely crucial to review your plan from time to time. ideally you want to do this annually, but even if you do it every couple of years, still you want to take a temperature of your financial well-being to make sure that you're still on track to your goals. You haven't, strayed away, and you want to think of it as going to your doctor for an annual checkup. Back to you, Celeste.
Yeah, no, to piggyback back on what Anna was saying, it's like an annual checkup to the doctor. No one wants to go and get their weigh-ins and get their shots and get their bloods taken, but you got to do what you got to do to keep your health okay. So you have to do the same thing for your financial health. You should be checking in with your advisor or whomever it might be, just checking in on your own personalized plan to make sure that you're on the right track for your financial health. I know for myself in particular, having my own personalized plan has helped me significantly. I just automate the process. So I have no choice, but once a month when my paycheck comes in, I have no choice but to automate a certain amount to savings, a certain amount to investing, a certain amount to whatever it might be. And I go about it from there as the way to keep my financial portfolio very healthy.
These are great examples. So I'm also going to talk about my friend. So basically, she told me this is what she does every January. She has a binder, and in there, she puts all her important statements, year-end statements, and all the important paperwork, wills, anything, if it is updated, it's all in this binder, because she has a young daughter, and she is afraid that if something happens to her, she doesn't want everybody to run around looking for the paperwork. I feel like it's such a great idea. Frankly, I've never done this before, but I feel like we should all take, and also passwords. That's another thing. People usually don't know where their passwords are. They can't get access to computers. So I like that example. I don't know what you guys think about that one, but I feel like it's going to simplify people's lives. I know it might be a couple of hours worth of work, but it's well worth it if, God forbid, an accident happens.
Actually, Zella, can I just mention something, because that brings up a very interesting point. We have this like a journal, we call it the family love letter, and it was written by an attorney. And the reason he came up with this brochure is because he had clients. He was an estate planning attorney, and he had clients who had aging father. There were 3 sons. And as he was getting older and older, and he had some medical issues, they decided to take over his financial situation, and they started to consolidate his accounts, his bank statements, and so on. And unfortunately, when the father died, they found out that he had a life insurance policy that had lapsed because they had canceled that bank account and they had consolidated the bank accounts together. And they had no idea that this life insurance existed. It was a term insurance policy. And then a year later, they found out, and it was already too late. So it is very important to have some central location, whether it's online in your computer, whether it's on physical paper, to really put everything there, whether it's your passwords, who owes you money, yes. Anything and everything to do with finances and legal aspects of your life. And even people don't realize this, but even your airline miles, they are transferable. So what we have done, and if anybody is interested, I'm more than happy to share the brochure. There's a PDF version of it, and also there's an actual book version of it. But it basically talks about all these different things that you have to consider, and it talks about from a holistic standpoint your overall life. And there was my favorite part is actually the part when it talks about your sort of parting gift to your grandchildren or your children. And it talks about the things that you've learned in life, the 3 mistakes that you made in life, and the things that you're most proud of. So it's not just financial, it's really truly a family love letter written to your family. But it really I never even thought of this until just now when you were mentioning about your friend and how she has this file. It doesn't matter how you do this. It could be a brochure, it could be a online something. Just do it. I think the most important thing for us to realize and hopefully take away from today's seminar is that take action. Do something. You don't have to do something perfect, but at least you get started. That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Well said, Anna. Yes, Celeste, what do you want to?
No, just quickly before, I don't want to talk for too long, but I have an app that I centralize, my Northwestern Mutual app links everything together. So I have like my investments, my savings, all my different accounts are all linked into one. So I'm sure that there are different types of apps out there like that. So you can have it digitally, but you can I also have it on paper. I'm old fashioned and I have everything written down on paper as well, just in case for some reason.
Well done. Well done. Okay. So, nearly 1/3 of Americans say that their finances prevent them from living a healthy lifestyle. How does financial health impact women specifically? Anna, I know when we were prepping, you had a story that you were going to share.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Back in the day when I had just started as a financial planner and I was working at Salomon Smith Barney, I built my practice by doing a lot of seminars. And one of the seminars that I used to do was called Smart Women Finish Rich. And it was written based on a book called with the same name, Smart Women Finish Rich. It was written by David Buck. And one of the slides on the seminar was talking about people in general, but women as well. If you were 18 years old and you were to invest just $4 a day into a retirement account, such as a Roth IRA, but at the time, I guess 20 years ago when I was doing the seminars, Starbucks coffee or a latte used to cost $4. So we used to call that the latte factor, because instead of going to Starbucks and drinking your coffee every day, having, this fancy coffee, maybe you make the coffee at home. And again, I'm just bringing up an example. But if you can just spare a few dollars a day, every day, consistently, and put it away, and it doesn't have to be a Roth IRA. It could be a regular IRA, it could be a 401k or any other retirement plan. By the time you're 65, at the average rate of return of 10%, believe it or not, you would have accumulated over $1 million.
Unbelievable.
So, and they used to laugh, and my friends at the time, I was in my early 20s, people used to laugh and they used to call me the latte factor lady, because that's what stuck with them, but the idea is, again, what Celeste was saying, do something, automate it, make it so that you don't even have to think about it. It happens without you thinking about it. And it forces you to get into these habits of saving and investing. It's so true. But yeah, so the latte factor, hopefully you guys will remember about that.
Yeah, no, I love that story. Celeste,
I love that story too. Yeah. I even have like a little stat to go off of that I use to my clients is if you invest $381 a month from ages 25 to 65, that'll be $1 million by retirement. Whereas if you wait 10 years to start saving for retirement, you start investing from ages 35 to 65, you have to invest $880 a month to get 1 million by retirement. So that just shows, like what you were saying, the latte effect, investing all of that $4 a day, it really makes a difference. Those 10 years make a huge difference into what you're gonna have in the long term. But I know for me, understanding my own current situation for myself was extremely important. And I just found it so important in taking control and making a plan. I know that when I graduated college, I was like, oh, I'll just use my parents' advisor and I'll figure out what, I'll just do what they're doing. Like that'll work for me. But I soon realized that I didn't really even understand what was going on. And I really wanted to take it into my own hands, and becoming an advisor made me even more passionate about sharing this with other women, specifically Armenian women, that understanding your own current situation for yourself and what works for you doesn't necessarily work for everyone else around you. You just want to be able to be your own boss and rely on yourself and save that little bit of extra a month for yourself. And I really find that important as a young woman.
Well, so I have a question for our audience, actually, because I think what Celeste was saying is so powerful and so important, that if you start investing at the age of 18 or you wait 10 years, you almost have to invest twice as much to get to the same end result. So I just want to know if our audience can either like put in comments in the comment section, or at least to speak up if that's available. Can somebody tell me why? Why is there such a big difference? Why, you know, why is there such a big difference in terms of the amount of investments you have to do if you wait 10 years?
Yeah, let's see if I'll keep an eye on folks who want to respond to this question.
So I hear somebody says, yes, compounded interest. Very good. That's what I was looking for. That was the answer, compounded interest. So we're not going to go into like the technical aspects of like what a compounded interest is, because we have short time. And if we have time, we'll go over some questions. But yes, that's the answer I was looking for. The power of compounded interest. Yes, and yes, and yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well
so
said.
let's move on to the next question.
I
So,
should one more thing, Anna. I wanted to add that this reminds me of a quote by Serena Williams. 1 in 4 women will experience violence in her lifetime, and financial abuse is one of the main reasons victims can't leave. So just knowing your own situation and just being completely aware of your own situation is extremely important for your financial health.
well said. Well said. I don't know if some of you watched the HBO series White Lotus. There's a very powerful moment in that movie, more or less about this topic, where she's about to forego her financial independence, and you could tell it's not going to go well in the future. Did we talk about mental health? Did you guys want to say?
No, not yet. We have not.
Why don't we address that question, because mental health affects your financial health, right? Who wants to start with that one?
I guess I can start off with that one. I believe that, you know, having a positive mindset and just believing in yourself in general can affect you significantly and affect your mental health in a tremendous way. But I know, especially in the earlier stages of your life, when you're in your 20s, you have so much going on in your career, your love life, your social life, whatever it might be. And then your 30s come and you're settling down a little bit more. There's always so much going on around you that really affects your health. And I believe social media to be a huge detriment to your health. I mean, but everyone's addicted to it. How can you not be? I myself am addicted. I mean, it's a way to connect with so many different people and a way to find and research a lot of different interests. And even with investing and saving, there's so much conflicting media out there. If you go online, it's, you know, telling you to do X, Y, and Z. How are we supposed to know what's specifically the best thing for us? There is something that you need to know. And this even ties into the last question, that you're in control. When you're in control, it will just bring so much harmony to your life, because it's something you don't have to worry about. It's something you can check off the list for your mental health. Today, there's been just so much uncertainty, but you want to be certain that you're in the right position and that you're putting yourself in a good position for the future. This will significantly affect your mental health.
Very well said. So I think she said it all. So let's move on to the next question.
Okay. So the next question is about how should somebody establish a stable financial future? And I know, Celeste, that you talk about that 60-20-20 rule. Do you want to get in? Do you want to tell us a little bit what do you mean by that?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a rule that I live by. It's a huge recommendation. 60-20-20 rule. So basically, this is a different way of how you should spend your money. So bucket number 1 is 60% of your paycheck should go to your fixed expenses. This being fixed expenses, living necessities, non-negotiables, things you need every day to survive. For example, like rent, your mortgage, your food, your parking, your gas, your electric bills, your water bills, etc. So that's what 60% of your paycheck should ideally go to. Bucket number 2 is 20% of your paycheck. This is to discretionary expenses. So the extra money, the fun money, you know, the vacations, the trips, the shopping, the restaurants, bars, Topgolf, you know, if you like skiing, whatever it might be, those fun expenses, you know, AIWA if you're a member. And then the last one is 20% of your paycheck. Bucket number 3 is to savings and investing. Like I said, how I automate the process is this is just an automatic thing for me. It automatically happens no matter what. So savings and investing is very detailed and very specific to you. And you can reach out to Anna and I offline to get into more nitty-gritties, because we only have so much time tonight, but it can be broken down into 4 different categories. First is short-term investing, second, midterm, third, long-term, and lastly, retirement. So we say ideally short-term investing should be 10% of that 20%. So 10% of your paycheck should go into the short term. Once you feel good about short-term investing, once you feel good about short-term investing, then you can allocate a little bit more to the midterm. Then we say about 5% go to long-term investing, and then 5% go towards your retirement. So really just some people, when they think of investing, they think of, only stock market, but there are just plenty of other different avenues that are available. And the earlier you start to educate yourself and learn more about them, then the better and more knowledgeable you become, and the more in control you are of your own finances.
So I'll add to that. Thank you, Celeste. That was excellent. So how should women establish a stable financial future? When I think of this question, the first thing that comes to my mind is that women, or all people, but especially women, should first and foremost rely on themselves. How often do we see women letting their spouses or children take care of their finances? How often do I see, and I have seen in my financial planning practice, very smart women who are professionals in their own fields let the finances be taken care of by someone else? And how many countless stories can I tell you, and Celeste can tell you, of situations where the spouse dies or something happens and women don't know what to do. A quick anecdote would be, especially when Celeste said, there are many ways to invest your money. You could invest in real estate, you can invest in the stock market or in other markets. And now I know there's a lot of talk about cryptocurrency and so on. So recently I heard a story, which it ties into what I'm trying to say. So apparently there is this woman in Pakistan that was in a very tough situation, and she was in a very tough marriage, and apparently the husband was holding all the financial finances in his own hands. And so what she did is, over time, she started buying Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, under her name. And she was able to save enough over a period of time and grow her money enough that she was able to achieve financial independence and be able to leave that toxic situation. That's a toxic marriage. And again, to me, when I hear stable financial future, to all these women out there, including my own daughter, one thing I want to teach my own daughter is to not rely on anyone but yourself. First and foremost, you want to rely on yourself. So that's my takeaway, I think, from that particular point.
Very, very well said, Anna. I see that a lot too. You need to take control of your finances and do not lose financial independence. One more thing too is that I see a lot of people who don't take advantage of their 401k plan at work. I saw a statistic that I think only 35% of workers are invested in a 401k. Do any of you want to comment on that? I mean, that's a crime not to take advantage of your 401k plan at work.
Absolutely. I see that on a day-to-day basis. It's just people not utilizing what their employee or employer benefits are. I mean, you really have to take a detailed look at what your benefits are, what you can be saving, some people aren't even aware of some of the benefits that they do have. And then some of the benefits that they don't as well, that they need to be checking in on. I mean, usually a lot of employers provide you with different 401k options, learning more
including a matching program. So a lot of the employers will have a matching program for the 401k. So at the very, very least, you should check into that. So even if you don't want to invest a lot of money, at least invest, let's say, up to 3 or 6%, whatever the matching program is, up to that, because it's like free money that you're leaving on the table.
And
you
also,
absolutely,
that reduces your taxable income, right? By investing in your 401k. So
Absolutely. It's a 100% tax deductible contribution. Every dollar going into any form of a retirement plan is a 100% tax deductible from your taxes. So a quick example will be if you were to make $100,000 and you put in 20,000 of it into a retirement plan, then your taxes would be calculated based off of the 80,000, not the 100. So literally by putting in 20,000 into a retirement plan, you're saving on average based on your tax bracket, obviously, you're saving anywhere between, let's say, I don't know, $3,000 to $5,000 in tax savings just by doing that.
That's why I'm saying it's a no-brainer, and people should, like you said, at least put that matching minimum.
The 401ks, and then there's, the insurances that a lot of times people don't even realize that they have through companies. Sometimes they have up to 60% disability insurance, life insurance, health insurance. These are a lot of benefits that can help you save a significant amount of money if you just are aware of those employee benefits and get someone to look at them.
Well said. We're getting to our last question, actually, which is, can you discuss the typical mistakes people make? And I think that's one of the mistakes that we were going to talk about, right? But before we get into that, I'm going to encourage everybody to start asking us questions, because we're going to open it up to the Q&A in a few minutes. So please ask questions in the Q&A button. Anyway, feel free to do that. Okay, so who wants to start with the typical mistakes people make? Anna, I think you were going to start with some of these.
Sure, I can get started with that. I mean, there are different mistakes that people make, but obviously as financial planners, we see some that are very common among people. And one of the biggest mistakes that I see in my practice is that people spend more than they make. So I think in general, living above your means, right? People spend money on credit cards without knowing that they can pay it off at the end of the month, or taking on vacations that they cannot afford, or buying things that they don't necessarily need. So I think one of the biggest mistakes, that's the easiest one to fix, by the way, is do not spend the money that you didn't make. So if you're making $10,000 a month, spend $6,000 a month. If you're making $20,000 a month, spend $15,000 a month. So, and I've seen plenty of people who make over $1 million a year, and they're still don't have any assets. They're not wealthy. They don't have not much to show for retirement. And I've also seen people who make $100,000 a year that have done the right thing, and they have consistently saved enough money in various buckets that Celeste was talking about, and they're able to show some assets for retirement. So it's not about how much you make, it's about how much you keep. So that is the biggest mistake that I see, and that's the most common one, and this is the easiest one to fix. Celeste, you want to add anything else? Any other mistakes that you know of?
I think there are so many, not having an emergency fund, not having something to back up. So piggybacking off of what you were just saying, Anna, is if you don't have the money, you can't spend it. So not having an emergency fund is definitely one that I factor into that, and not investing money in a wise way, taking on too many risky investments, or putting all of your eggs in one basket, following those, online get rich quick schemes that will tell you you'll make 100 grand overnight if you put $5 into this one, whatever it might be. And just knowing that you can't put all of your eggs into one basket. You can't just have this get rich quick scheme that overnight you'll become a millionaire. I think that having one source of income or one source of an investment is also another typical mistake that I see, and that you really have to be diversified in your investing.
That's excellent. And I just want to add another mistake that I, again, think is important to mention, which is saving rather than investing. People are afraid sometimes to make informed financial decisions when it comes to their portfolios. And oftentimes, people will take certain actions based on very short-term criteria. So the stock market or the capital market, they go up and down. And in any given, week or month, things can, dramatically change by performance. But if you have a long-term financial plan, and if you look at the stock market performance, for example, and you take any 10-year period, typically speaking, 7 out of those 10 years, the market has performed positively, and 3 out of those 10 years, the market has performed negatively. So not investing is important to invest, because if you put your money in a bank account and you're saving your money, that's wonderful. But you also have to take into consideration the inflation situation, because if inflation is about on average 3.5% to 4%, and the banks are currently giving less than 0.5% for your money market account, you're basically, technically, you are losing money, because your money is not keeping up with cost of living. The cost of milk, cost of subway rides, cost of everything, taxes, everything goes up on a yearly basis. So saving rather than investing is a mistake that I see. And being scared to take financial risks, informed financial risks. I'm not saying that you should put your emergency money into a stock market account. Absolutely not. But what I am saying is, if you have a plan, if you have a proper financial plan, and also you need to understand, what is your risk? What does risk mean to you? And when I say risk, I mean the prospects of losing money. That's when you talk about investments and risk within the investment, it's prospect of losing money. So if you have an investment account, whether it's your retirement plan or non-retirement account, you have to say to yourself, and you have to go through a process of risk analysis to say and understand, what is your risk tolerance? And based on your risk tolerance, then you can come up with proper investment options that either your financial advisors can help you with, or you can do it on your own. But understanding the risk is extremely important. And not investing is also a mistake.
Yeah, I completely agree. I 100% agree. I do risk tolerances just to make sure, there's an average investor, there's medium, there's aggressive, there's extremely aggressive. So it depends on usually the time horizon that they have those investments, or that they're wanting to invest those investments, but it's different and specific to each and every person. So tying back into, a huge part of our entire chat today is just having your personalized plan is so important to knowing, what is my risk tolerance for these investments? Where should I be putting my money? What type of different investments are out there?
Yeah, and Anna, thank you for mentioning that, saving versus investing. That's a pet peeve of mine. We know a lot of people who just put their money in the bank, and nowadays with high inflation rates, like you said, you're losing purchasing power just doing nothing. So it's what a shame. We have a few questions that are coming in. Maybe we can start looking. By the way, somebody, Anna, was I think asking you about that app that you mentioned, PDF app by,
So yeah, that is called a family love letter. It's a booklet, and it's in a PDF form, and it's an actual book form. So if anyone is interested, they can either, Zella, they can let you know, and I can email the PDF. And we also do webinars on that, because it's rather, lengthy paperwork to fill out, because it asks you for your, who is your financial consultant, who is your banker, who is your attorney, where, do you have a safety deposit box? And we try to make it fun for people to go through and actually fill out the forms. So yeah, so we're more than happy to help with that.
So I just copied that link in the app, whoever was asking that question, so feel free to go there. There's a great question I want to ask. Oh God, where was it? I lost it. Okay. How do most couples plan their finances that you work with? Do you find women typically share all of their accounts with their husbands, or are they keeping things separate to be able to support themselves in case something happens? I love this question.
So I would say it is completely dependent on the couple. It's very different for each of the couples that I at least work with. And I'm sure your answer is going to be different than mine. But for the most part, either I would have a couple meet independently. If they wanted to keep their finances separate, then I would meet with the wife and the husband separately, or I would meet with them together. And usually they are aware of each other's financial situation and pretty open and transparent about, you know, I want to save this for just in case or something like that. But for the most part it's very different for all the couples that I've worked with. And I think that as time has gone on, it's become even more apparent that the woman will be in the conversation a little bit more heavily than she used to be maybe prior in the past.
And I agree with that. And I would just say, you know, there's so many different types, and I've seen it all. And in fact, I remember we had and I don't like to generalize, but I had a colleague, a male colleague who used to work alongside with me, and he had met with a couple, and he was doing like this introductory session where he was trying to understand what their financial needs were. And apparently he was constantly talking to the husband, and he wasn't really including the wife, and he wasn't even looking in her eyes, and he was just quite, you know, directing the questions toward the husband. Guess what? He didn't get those clients, right?
Of course.
He didn't get that account. And I mean, it's just needless to say, women are, you know, more than 50% of the decision makers in today's economy. So not to include the woman in a conversation, I think, is a huge mistake. Also, I've seen it, you know, where, you know, unfortunately, sometimes spouses have secrets from each other, and they do prefer to comment separately. So I think the most important thing is that, let's go back even like one step backward. I believe that young people in today's sort of lifestyle, right? They have to look at marriage from a contract standpoint, and they have to have part of the discussions as they're if the couple is getting to know each other, you know, the girl, the boy, whatever, they're trying to figure out, you know, we like each other, we love each other, do we have the same values, do you know, believe in the same things, do we have the same similar goals, and so on. I think it's crucial to talk about money and to understand if their views about money is similar. Because can you imagine what a catastrophe it would be if one person is a spender, spend, and the other one is a save. I mean, it would just create so much anxiety in that relationship. So to talk about, you know, your relationship with money, your expectations of money together as a couple, I think is absolutely important in order to, you know, get into a healthy financial situation and also a healthy marriage. So for that, maybe Zella next time, what I have done through my Get Skills Academy, I actually had a session on your relationship with money. And I had one of my instructors came in who is a therapist, but she specializes in talking with people and getting them to understand their relationship with money. And I think this would be a very nice follow-up session maybe we can do down the road, because I think it really goes back all the way to like literally your beliefs. And that will change or form your financial health and your mental health and your overall health in life based on your beliefs. So
well said, well said. So there's a question that, you know, follows this one about real estate. I like that a lot. It says, should real estate be kept separately, particularly if it was passed on from a relative in case there's a divorce down the road?
Absolutely, yes. I would say absolutely, no questions asked. It should be kept separately. The other thing I would say, I have a lot of international clients, so I have clients globally. And what I see, unfortunately, is a lot of European couples have much easier time to do negotiating, or almost like before getting married, they actually have a marriage contract, which basically actually, I feel like it should be the law. When people get married, they should have a marriage contract, because you know, you love each other and everything else, but unfortunately 50% of marriages end in divorce. So you absolutely have to protect yourself, especially when you have trust funds or family inheritance or businesses that are, you're part of a family business. You absolutely want to protect them. And what I also see, unfortunately, as men have much easier time to talk about that, and they have much easier time to expect their future spouse to sign in a prenuptial agreement. But when it comes to women, they have absolutely difficult time with that. I had several female clients that were very well-to-do, and they came from wealthy families. They had various assets and trust funds, and then two of them married to a a person who had a lot less wealth, let's just say. And one of the clients, she just was petrified. She didn't want to tell her spouse or future spouse. They were about to get married, and she was just petrified to talk about prenuptial agreement. And I was like, listen, leave it up to me. You tell your future spouse, I don't want to name names. And I told her, I said, tell him that your financial consultant will not allow you to get married unless you take care of the paperwork. I just think it's like anything else. You have to be realistic, and you have to protect yourself. You have to protect, just like you protect yourself when you, rely on yourself before relying on other people.
Definitely. It's well said. And that's one reason to hire a consultant, investment consultant, right? Investment financial advisor. Celeste, what were you gonna, I know you were gonna.
No, I was just gonna add in, and this isn't even necessarily an answer to that question, but again, it goes back to being knowledgeable and even knowing about like your estate laws and your estate taxes, and the tax if you do get a divorce or whatever it might be. Having your advisor make sure that you're knowledgeable of all of that. I know that even today I was reviewing some specific estate laws, and I thought that it was really interesting that in 2026, if the estate tax law right now is that your estate is taxed on property or an estate of $11 million or more, and it's going to drop down to 5 million. So just being in constant contact with your advisor about if you get a divorce, what's the tax going to be, and that just piggybacked onto it. So I thought that was a good little thing to add on.
Well
I also see a question here that somebody is mentioning about divorce, and that they were left with several mortgages and so on. And that's a reality that a lot of people face, unfortunately. And one thing I would add, another story that I would add that I think really is important to talk about. I had another situation with clients where, again, the female spouse was unaware of the finances of the family. She wasn't on any of the legal documents. They owned the home, and the husband had owned the home under his own name only. They had young children, minor children, and unfortunately the husband passed away, and they didn't have a will. So, and that this happened in the state of New York, and it just created a lot of not only struggles and headaches, but legal problems, because this poor woman, she almost lost her home because she couldn't pay the mortgage. She had monthly mortgage that she had to pay, but the house wasn't even in her name. She couldn't renegotiate the mortgage. Not only that, because her children were minors and they didn't have, like, there was no will. And I don't want to get into the whole technicalities of it, but like they had to go to court, they had to go through like a probate court, and they had to have like a court appointed guardians and court appointed people to speak up on the behalf of the children. So it all goes back to what we were saying initially, having a plan, doing the things you don't feel like doing, but you have to do it. And that's where financial advisors come in. Our job is to kind of remind you. We're like that nagging mom, right? The nagging grandma calls and says, hey, remember we talked about X, Y, and Z, we have to do it. So, I know in different aspects of life, it's always easier to do it when you have like almost like an accountability coach, like, do you think of a financial advisor as your accountability coach? Because once you say, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, then you have to actually do it. You have to implement it. So, yeah, I mean, I can tell you, million stories about the things that, the consequences of not taking the proper actions. And it's not meant to scare people off. It's meant to make you aware that when you don't make a decision, you're actually making a decision. By not doing anything, you're actually making a decision not to do anything. So,
well said, Anna. So we have, oh my God, some really nice questions coming in. I was going to say, there's going to be a survey at the end of this program. Please, if you want us to contact you, please put in your email. There's a section you can just free form, put your email. We're happy to contact you. There's a nice idea for a part 2 of a financial webinar. It's saying, I love this idea. Interesting to go over strategic planning and philanthropy. I like that. That's a good one. And this last question here I'm seeing, is it wise to withdraw from an IRA to pay mortgages? And you know, obviously there's a penalty when you withdraw if you're not 59 and a half, I forget. Yeah, 59 and a half. Or is it better to take out loans? Please advise.
I think I'm sure that Anna is going to have a very similar answer. That's going to depend on your specific financial situation. We couldn't make a recommendation just based on that question, but traditionally it's a big no-no in my practice to withdraw from an IRA unless it's absolutely needed. But I've never recommended that in the past, but I think it just will depend specifically on your own current financial situation. So I wish I could give you a more specific answer, but you need to do a plan and everything to give you that answer.
And what I would add to that is that there are several ways to access your money inside a retirement account. For example, if you withdraw money from an IRA, you have 60 days to put it back. So if you had a situation where, you know, you have to pay off a mortgage due to penalty, if, you know, that falls within that 60-day window, you could access it and then put it back. So that's one option. Second option is, depending on what kind of retirement accounts you have, if you have a 401k, most 401ks will allow you to actually lend money to yourself. So you can actually take a loan from your 401k, and then you have to put it back. Like there's different plans that how to put the money back, but that's another option. And the third option I want to mention is, I agree with Celeste. It's a big no-no. The whole point of putting money into an IRA, and the IRS gives us all these tax deductions for us to save money. But if you are in a dire situation, you're in an emergency where you have to access that money, then you can actually do what is called a 72T regulation, which means you can actually access your retirement funds before the age of 59 and a half, because the general rule says that in order to access your money without a penalty, you have to be 59 and a half. But through 72T regulation, you can actually access the money earlier than that. And there is a basic rule that says you have to take the money out on equal installments for a period of 5 years or until you're 59 and a half, whichever comes later. So that's 72T regulation. Again, there are many ways to access things. And again, this goes back to going to speak with someone, speak with a professional who can help you assess your specific situation.
It's so important to be proactive rather than reactive, just to make sure that you get a plan that's tailored to your life. But, you know, as we were talking about, if you had to pay a mortgage, taking out from an IRA, if you had an instrument like whole life insurance, you could withdraw from that much easier, and there would be very, very, very low loan. But again, that's something we could talk about in another webinar, or we can learn more about offline.
I know. We have one last question that I want us to answer, and then it's going to be top of the hour, and our webinars are typically an hour. I don't want to go over 7 Eastern. So here's the question. In case of a divorce, let's say, do you think it is important for women to have separate financial advisors than their spouse or partner? Yeah. And my quick answer is yes, of course. But anyway, go ahead.
I say yes. And in fact, it's been in my practice, I've had couples who divorced, and I literally, they both wanted to work with me, and I politely have told one of them, and I told them I can work with only one of you. So usually when that happens, I have plenty of colleagues and partners that I can sort of transfer the client to, and they can work with them, because I just think it's more ethical to work with one of the spouses as opposed to both. Yeah. It just never works out. It never does. It's just my personal opinion.
I agree.
You should have an advisor before you meet your spouse, is my answer to that. But if you're already in a relationship, then it depends on the relationship or whatever it might be. But I do agree. I think it's nice to have some things separate just in case something were to happen.
So both Celeste and Anna are on LinkedIn with their last names. Feel free to reach out to them directly if you want to. I want to personally thank all of our panelists and our attendees and listeners across the US. We had a lot of people coming in from everywhere. Please look out for future AIWA events. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram. If you're not a member of AIWA, we encourage you to join through our website, www.aiwainternational.org. Join and become a member and become part of our active community and a great network of women who share same values. Like I said earlier, our goal is to engage communities, empower women, leaders, elevate leaders, etc. Stay well. Stay safe, and please, there's a survey. Take that survey and ask any questions you want of us. We're happy to connect everyone here on the call. I'm getting some really nice comments, and we're happy to do other financial webinars and down the road. So thank you. Thank you. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Zella. Thank you, AIWA.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
guys.
Oh, I love
Bye.
the comments that are coming in.
Yes, I see it.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, me
wonderful. I
too.
love it. I love it so much when people get something, take something out of it.